Yeah, I think we should add, though, it really doesn't matter what the addiction is. Um, I mean, blueberries and heavy cream is pretty specific, but you can have addictions towards anything that's sweet and need help with that. So it could be sodas, could be anything that
Yeah,
you're just
it could
not
be.
able to give up.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Mhm.
I've had caffeine addiction, nicotine addiction, sugar addiction, eating
Yeah.
disorder in general, and gambling addiction all melt away on priming. And that's no joke. And I didn't see most of that coming. I did not, definitely not the nicotine and gambling. I didn't know that could have anything to do with what you're eating, but it does. That's what's really
Right.
crazy. So I
Yeah.
agree that the addiction doesn't matter. It just getting your hormones, your brain chemistry, and proper nutrition is right. And I think our body knows how to get rid of addictions on its own when it's healthy.
That reminds me of a quote that I always like to bring up from Dr. Wiedemann, Lisa Wiedemann, also known as the carnivore doctor. She says this all the time. The opposite of addiction is, Todd,
I don't
do you
know it.
know?
No, I don't. I've never heard it. That's
Okay,
funny.
the opposite of addiction is community. She
Oh,
always says, yeah.
that's awesome. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot
Yep.
of sense for
Yep.
sure. Well, there we go. I guess that's why I'm addicted to the SBG community because all the
Well,
time I used to spend doing bad things, I'm in there now trying to tell people not to do bad things.
hey, if it works, it works.
For sure. Oh, that's awesome though. Makes a lot of sense. But no, seriously, I mean, that's what I tell everybody now, and I don't get paid to say this or be here. It's just that is the number one thing that keeps me going carnivore. Is just, I was thinking in the NSV today, we just did an NSV, which is a non-scale victory meeting, which is one of Bella's weekly meetings. And I do love those the best because, when you're seeing actual change in people and they're getting freed from stuff, I don't care how many of these follow the science studies and epidemiology studies that people quote. I've never gotten hope out of one of those studies, right? In fact, I'm pre-programmed now to believe that they're mostly bullcrap, right off the rip, that they're not going to work. And I know that there's a lot that are, but the reality of it is I don't know which ones to believe and which ones not to believe, but I do know real people really getting free from stuff that's been keeping them sick and depressed and hurting and addicted to things, and watching them in these meetings completely change in front of you. And that's what gives me encouragement and hope every day that I see it. So that's why the community is so important, because it's not settled science and it's not all these great epidemiology studies. And we have Dr. Phil that can tell us which ones of those to believe on a daily basis, keeping us all straight on the right path. But the reality of it is, I don't get hope from any of those, but I do get hope from Lindy losing 500 pounds, from Michael getting his life together and going to get out of his house for the first time in over 20 years, from Tim and SBG getting to walk again and getting out of a wheelchair and walking again, going back to work.
And Tim's wife said, "Thank you for bringing my husband back to me." And every time I think about that statement, I want to cry, because this is really what's happening to so many families just by going carnivore. Lindy, her daughter's saying, "Thank you for bringing back my mom," just because of carnivore. This is
Yep.
powerful stuff. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Todd.
It's huge, huge.
We
Yeah.
had an NSV tonight that just amazed me as a physician. And, we physicians, we like studies, we like double blinded, we like large numbers, but then you hear something that is totally unexpected, that's obviously anecdotal, but life changing. And it's a new member who has a mechanical mitral valve and
Wow.
suffered from hemolytic anemia. And the mechanism is basically you have this St. Jude's valve, which is metal and banging every heartbeat, and your red blood cells become so fragile that they literally crush. They're crushed by the mechanical valve. And she had become anemic to the point of having low energy, needing transfusions. And on carnivore, her hemolytic anemia has totally gone away. And she now has normal oxygen carrying capacity. Her heart is no longer working harder than it should be, and she feels so much better. And you wouldn't know unless you're a doctor that red blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. They lose their nucleus, and then they go out in your circulation where they live about 90 days in normal people. And we know in carnivores, they tend to last longer than 90 days because they're more robust. And what she was telling and sharing tonight is her red blood cells leave her bone marrow so robust and healthy that they are surviving the worst possible trauma a red blood cell could ever have in its life. And she's thriving on this carnivore diet. And that impact to that one individual of not living her life with a chronic anemia and have to risk blood transfusions and deal with low energy and low oxygen getting to her heart all the time and the heart having to work. I mean, that is incredible. And we won't be able to study that. We won't have a double-blinded study. We won't have, 1,000 people treated with carnivore versus not carnivore. But you hear a story like this and you realize how life-changing carnivore can be for one person who has a very unique situation they're trying to heal.
How young was she?
I don't know. Probably
Okay.
50s, but maybe 40s.
Wow. That's miraculous.
Incredible. But she's got little Iron Man red blood cells now. They're just Hulk cells.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Sweet.
it just tells you how much your cellular immunity is improving when you get rid of the inflammation in your body. And if it's cellular healing for your red blood cells, which don't have a nucleus anymore, what is it doing to your white blood cells, which guard you against infection? What's it doing for your muscle cells? What's it doing for your brain cells? I mean, where do we take that? And we're not going to get this stuff studied, but it's these N = 1 things that can change your whole perspective and give you hope that, wow,
Yes.
that's totally unexpected, but what a cool non-scale victory to share.